Welcome to Biz Dev Live. So happy that you're tuning in today, whether you're tuning in live or you're tuning in later. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am bringing you an awesome show today with Fernando Coelho, who does LA Photo Party and is a yoga guru. Really excited to get into it. Wellness for your event and wellness for your body coming your way right after the Biz Dev theme.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
So I first met Fernando Coelho through his work with LA Photo Party. LA Photo Party specializes in experiential marketing and entertainment for corporate and private events. Since 2007, they've collaborated with some of the largest brands and high-profile social events in the industry. LA Photo Party's award-winning photo booths are capable of capturing photos, GIFs, videos, photomorphs, light painting, Snapchat filters, 3D, 360, and more. They also provide virtual reality and augmented reality, photo mosaics, video studio packages, roaming photography, and even an underwater photo booth. And recently, speaking at an ALIA event, our International Live and Events Association event, I discovered that he's also a yoga guru as well. He's been practicing yoga for over 10 years and teaching for 5, certified in Hatha, Vinyasa, Yin, and restorative yoga from Yandara Institution in Todo Santos, Mexico. His classes include breath work and meditation and sequence postures to engage and sharpen our mind-body relationship. He's been leading classes for over 5 years and helping individuals improve their mobility, reduce their stress, and increase their energy levels through conscious breathing matched with purposeful movements. Fernando, thanks for being with me today, man.
Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate the intro, and I love that video, man, and that rap. I couldn't help but like bob my head the whole way through that. That's really catchy. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to work on updating my video constantly because I see it every day and I'm like already bored with it. So I gotta bring some more graphics and whatnot to it. But yeah, it's a very cool thing, and you know, it's a wonderful thing on the biz dev tip. Like, you can create that too. You can go to Fiverr.com and there's some great artists. You can get your own theme song created, and that's something that very easily you can create for your own thing, so you can pump people up before class with your own theme song or whatever. Really not that expensive. I'm happy to walk you through that. So Fiverr.com is where I got that from. So talk to us about you know, both your industry specific stuff. So I talked about the LA Photo stuff. So tell me about because you're not only involved with LA Photo Party, but you know, just trip down through Instagram, New York, New Jersey. The software, you've been involved with the company for a long time in a lot of facets. And then you have an amazing personal story that I want to get into, which is why you're deeply committed to yoga yourself, and then how you help people. So I really want to get into that as well. I know that we definitely want to talk to people about spending more time with their body so that they can better themselves. So let's get right into it. Awesome,
man. Yeah. Let me know where you want me to start.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the industry stuff first, okay. Because I think there's, while that's fun, I think you got more story around the yoga than the LA Photo Party stuff. I definitely want to let people know all the things that you offer. I know that you're a fantastic partner and you've given a ton back to the event industry. So I definitely want to promote that and let people know the services that you guys offer.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you for that. Well, I started with LA Photo Party in 2014, but by that time, the company had already been well into their stride. They started in 2007, and LA Photo Party created the very first photo sharing app. So the first time a picture ever went to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram was using our application, which is now being used by thousands of users all over the globe. And that's one of the components of the business, is that, we're not just coming out to an event with a photo booth. We're coming out with an experience that your guests want to be a part of, and then market for you. So everything is engaging, everything's meant to be instantly shareable, and then all of that data is being captured and tracked, and then relayed to, obviously, the client. The activations, what a list you went through. It's really anything that you can think of. The great thing about the company is that our clients drive us to create newer and cooler and engaging activations, because they have really cool services, whether it's a movie, whether it's a product, whether it's a show. And they reach out to us, and because we have such a great design team and programmers on staff, we sometimes create activations based on a client ask. So the photo morphing was something we were doing with X-Men, because one of the characters, Mystique, can transform her body. So they wanted to do something transformative, right? So we had our guys work on facial recognition and have this morph be really believable and not just like a dissolve. It's really sort of takes the points in the face and then really starts to meld them together. And stuff like that is what keeps us creating. It keeps us updating our own software that we also sell, and it keeps our users getting newer and newer tools to sell to their clients. And because we've partnered with vendors literally all over the globe who own our proprietary hardware and software, we can also get our clients to do national and international tours without flying people out, which is great during COVID times. We're not getting people in different markets. We have our equipment in various places all over the world. We do all of the logistics for the clients, and then we activate in local markets. So for instance, we can be in 15 different movie theaters all on the same day, promoting the same movie, keeping the brand exactly intact in all these different markets. And it's fun. It's getting harder and harder to advertise. We're getting smarter and smarter as consumers. We want to see less and less commercials. So what do? We have to let the consumer do the advertising. We have to give them something fun and exciting to do, and then hope that they share it. And that's the real value there. And that's really all that LO Photo Party does.
Yeah, I love it. Showcasing some of the stuff from the website right now. Thanks for walking us through that. And I think one of the things that I'm sort of excited about getting into as we kind of move through COVID is into the event marketing space. So it's exciting to hear that you can do those kind of event marketing applications across different places. I think that's some of the fun stuff for brands and launching, and I think will be something that brands will have a lot of fun with as things open up and they want to create some buzz and excitement. Looking like some great opportunities on the horizon there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see positives in pandemics, but it's amazing how even the event world, trade shows in general, have now limited the amount of resources required, right? You don't have to spend a ton of money on putting together a physical exhibit. You don't have to travel, send staff, stay in hotels, fossil fuels, right? We're using all that stuff up. And you might not just be able to get there, right? Now you have a virtual event. You have attendees from all over the globe who can now go and still see your services. So there are lots of little pluses coming out of these minuses. We just have to, lean in a little bit and be less resistant to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you guys doing some virtual offerings?
Yeah. We are actually pretty fortunate in that in 2017 we started creating virtual offerings for our clients, like movies. You know, Paramount, Sony, anyone putting out a movie, they're like, well, we love doing these activations in theaters, but people still have to go to the theater. What about the market of people that are at home? A huge number of untapped, consumers. So we started mimicking the photo booth in the theater, and then we created one virtually where we can send a link to these guests. The guests click on the link, a virtual photo booth opens up. All the assets are from the movie, so you have backgrounds from the movie, short clips from the movie, and then the guests can upload a photo, take a photo, and then they're creating their own little GIF experience that they can also share virtually or post directly to social. So it was just another way of getting people to interact at home. And as soon as this happened, we basically just went back to the drawing board and just kind of updated some of the features and some of the coding. And we've been doing that as well as a few others. One is some AR lenses that we're customizing that you can also drop into a chat in a Zoom or a webinar or something like that, where the lens is taken over and it's a custom lens. It can create, face filters or even some tracking on the hand. There's even some static points now that people can advertise to. There could be like a globe behind me. So anything that sort of engages the guest a little bit more. And then we have a virtual mosaic that ended up breaking us into a completely different market. We have this mosaic that we do on site. It's a software we developed last year, but this year we started using it in a completely different capacity. We were having mostly schools reach out to us, kids who couldn't go to graduation, couldn't have their ceremonies. We were creating the virtual photo booth. The kids can go in and literally take a cap and gown photo, a mock cap and gown. They can do that whole thing virtually and then, play around with their image, and then they can hashtag it. We actually use the phone number, so they can text their image to a phone number. That image then goes to a YouTube page that's creating a larger mosaic of all the kids' photos throughout the year. And it's live, so the kids can go and see how many photos have been updated. And for a week long, these images are being placed in, and then the day of, they get to watch a time lapse of the mosaic coming together, and then seeing this final piece that everyone got sent out.
We got to talk, because I think one of the things that would be interesting would be doing that with the nonprofit that I work with, getting all the alumni into a mosaic would be kind of cool. That would be awesome.
Oh man, that's super cool. We're doing a really big, I'm not even sure we can talk about the specifics of it, but we're doing a really cool activation with City Harvest, in which we're using that very software to really bring the whole city of New York together and have a massive mosaic. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And just shout out to David Fletcher, YP, musician, who's talking about there's a silver lining to every pandemic. Yeah, I think one of the things that was sort of just for anyone that's down, and I know, there's been several points over the last few months where it's like, all right, this sort of sucks, and then you get kind of high and then you get kind of low again. But that idea that, we're bettering ourselves and we're looking for the opportunity, you can come out of this stronger than you were before you came into it. I got a sort of a gut check as I was early on into the pandemic, where I was sort of, pivoting, and somebody was like, well, you may like what you were doing. You might like what you're doing now more than you were doing before. And it was sort of a gut punch. I was like, what do you mean? I spent the last 9 years building this company, And so it felt personal. I was like, hey, you might be right. I do really enjoy some of the things that I'm getting into now. And so just having that open mind and approaching like, hey, there's some opportunities, there's some tech out there. Let me talk to Fernando and get some things going with my organization. It might create some opportunities that I didn't have before. And it's a great transition, because one of the things that David said, Fernando rocks. One of the things that the slower pace of life and being at home more has definitely a lot more physical exercise. We were talking about it a little bit before we jumped on here. Talk to us about your personal story, how you got into yoga, how it's changed your life, and how you're working with other people to help them.
Yoga was something I sort of detested. It wasn't in my repertoire at all. I actually have a law enforcement background. I worked with federal probation. I eventually became a state corrections officer. So I was in the prison for about 4 years. And my method of working out was weights and the gym. And I spent a lot of time sort of bulking up, almost as, just defense at work, right? I figured that a bigger frame and almost like a larger body would help me at work. And for the most part, I felt really fit. Like I actually felt like I was in good shape. But I did get into a really bad accident, and they started taking pictures, as you do. They take pictures of the inside of your body, and then they decide to make corrections where they see fit. And not to say long story short, because you probably want to hear every detail, but there were a lot of surgeries. So there were a lot of intrusiveness or invasiveness in the body.
And how far back was this?
So here's the long version. I got hit by a car when I was a kid, when I was about 13 years old. Well, I was 13. And that accident, I was told that in that car accident that I had broken my femur, my right femur, fractured my right femur, and that I needed to be casted. So I was casted at 13 for about 6 months, the whole leg, from the toe literally to the butt cheek, whole leg. And after that 6 months, the cast came off, and I went to physical therapy, and I thought the problem was solved, and I went about my life. But when I was 30, so a long time later, 17 years later, I was in a car accident. This time I was actually driving. I was broadside by a tractor trailer, and was taken to the hospital. They started looking into the back and the hip, and they saw all dysfunction. They saw herniations, they saw deviations, they saw degenerative discs. So they really went to town. I had 2 back surgeries and 2 hip surgeries, and my pain got worse. Every surgery essentially began making my body more limited, and my pain increased, which meant my pain medication increased as well. So I was on pretty heavy.
And I'm sure that had to be disheartening, because you're there, you're getting medical assistance so that you can be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like I had gotten on a roller coaster that I couldn't get off, right? It was no longer fun. I wasn't having a good time, and I certainly wasn't benefiting from it. But after extensive back surgeries and hip surgeries, I'm still fused. So they eventually removed L5S1 completely, and they put a cage, right? So 2 titanium rods, 4 screws, and essentially now it's just bone around that metal cage. And there was no relief there, so they went to the hip, did some hip repair. I had 2 surgeries in the hip, and same deal. What eventually happened was I went to a new doctor. I actually went into the city, went to hospital special surgery, and I met with a Dr. Rosbrook, who did what you call like a full body scan. And they basically put you up against a wall and essentially x-ray the whole body. And they run these graphs through the entire body to see the lines of symmetry. And what they noticed was that my right leg was 2 inches shorter, a little bit more actually, a little bit more than 2 inches on the right side. And when they started looking deeper into the femur, I was told that I never had a broken femur or a fractured femur, that I was simply casted as a child during a growth spurt. So at 13, There was no actual injury to the leg. There didn't require a cast. They didn't see any signs of anything on that femur. And they were very adamant that if you had a break or a fracture, it would be visible forever. And so you couldn't see it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So the fix at this point, and I was pretty fortunate, Dr. Rosbrook was the only person in the country doing this type of surgery at the time, but they cut my leg. They cut my right femur in half above the knee, and then they inserted a magnetic rod through the bone canal, in which I lengthened with an external magnet. So I was in the hospital for 10 days, and I was learning the process within that 10 days. And then they basically send you home with this big suitcase with a very powerful magnet. And the way the magnet works is that it stays inside the bone canal, so it keeps the leg completely aligned. And as you magnetize the outside of your leg, the rod spins like a shower curtain rod and gets longer. And in the 40s or 50s, some Russian doctor figured out that the bone is like a magnet. And if you keep the magnet close enough, it'll keep sending information, essentially, which is fill in this gap, right? But if the bone is too far apart, there's no connection.
Right.
So they grow the bone in stages by lengthening. Magnetically, I was lengthening about 1 centimeter or 1 millimeter rather a day.
I can't imagine this was painless either.
Oh, no. Yeah. There's lots of pain for sure. There was a period of time when that pain started that it never stopped, right? So it was back, hip, or leg. It was just constant. And the lengthening wasn't any more painful than anything else. It felt like it all fell into the same category of just pure misery. But I did the lengthening for about a year or about 6 months, but I had the rod in my leg for about a year, and then they simply unscrew it. It's completely miraculous. The body is just like constantly fixing. That's all it does. It's just going around fixing, the potholes and whatever it needs to address. And as I would come back in for my appointments, I would see that my femur had this ball, like a snowball of bone. And what it did was it was just creating a ton of mass around this gap. And then it would narrow and narrow and narrow. And every time I went in, it would be narrower and narrower until the bone was fully fused again. And it was one streamlined femur. And once they can see that in the picture, they slide the kneecap out of the way, unscrew, and just slide it right out. Yeah. And then they gave it to me. I told them I wanted it. So I waited about a year and a half for the sterilization process. And then they mailed it to me.
The sterilization process.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you go through this whole process, and now they've lengthened your leg so that you're symmetric, you're even.
Right.
Was that the end of your pain?
So that's the thing, right? My body as a 13-year-old suffered some trauma, and my body took that trauma and continued to work around it and work with it. And because I had a 2-inch leg length discrepancy over 17 years, my body was making very subtle corrections that I couldn't notice, but my right hip had pronated, my right knee had pronated, my right hip had opened, my ankle, everything slightly adjusted to make up for this imbalance. But overnight, they would cut my body open and correct 17 years of adjustment. So my body, that wasn't a mistake. My body didn't make a mistake in these corrections. They were compensating for a trauma. Doctors don't see that. They look at a picture and they see that's a herniation, that's a deviation, that's a pronation. Let's fix it. Let's get it back to symmetry. But when they brought it back to symmetry, they actually took away all of the compensation that my body had created. So I needed the length back on my leg. So they gave me the length back on my femur, but that's my skeleton. My skin, the tension on my skin was still holding around a smaller leg. So as the bone lengthened it's like, imagine you have a really tight rope and now you're trying to pull even more slack out of that same rope. And so that's what happened. And so my body on the right side, still to this day, is completely altered from my left side. I can feel a difference from my right toe to my right shoulder to my right ear. There is all of tension still on this right side. And yoga was literally one of the only things that I began to see very quick changes to my pain level. And I started really, really simple. I bought a Walmart package. It was a Rodney Yee. I'll never forget this. It was a Rodney Yee setup, and it was a mat, a block, a strap, and a couple of DVDs. And it was really simple movement, breath centric. So focus on the breathing. And little by little, I started to feel better, simply because I had more and more range. I was starting to walk better.
So, you know, I think everybody hears yoga and they're like, you know, other than, you know, the, funny downward dog, sitting crane, whatever the names that go along with some of the poses and everything. So what were you doing that was actually movement? How long were you spending? Because I think these are the things, and I know when I was telling you just before we jumped on, you know, I'm having some pain. I got arm stuff and knee stuff. I've been to the physical therapist. I know I need to go back because I got some stuff that I got to get through. I went through the orthopedist. They're saying you got early onset arthritis. So shed some light on some of the movements and stuff that you were doing that was actually moving you through some of this trauma and pain that you were experiencing day to day.
So the first thing is the breathing. So there's so much focus on breath in yoga, and Hatha specifically is really breath centric. But most every practice about yoga is first getting you to master your breathing, or at least be aware of it the whole time. And makes sense, right? Because you need air more than you need food or water or clothes or shelter or anything, or money, right? Yet we spend a lot more energy on all of these other things. And as we keep putting the breath further and further back on our list of priorities, what happens is the breath starts getting shallower and shallower and shallower. And within that, if the breath doesn't reach the diaphragm, if your low back doesn't actually expand, right? If your diaphragm doesn't fill up, then your low back doesn't relax. It's a relationship with the muscle. Like if I want to make a bicep contract, my tricep has to say, okay, I'm going to get long and just elongate as much as I can so that you can ball up here. If my diaphragm doesn't fill up, then my low back never relaxes. But
yeah, I think people, because I'm trying to think through it too, and think about why I don't spend as much time. But I know the times when I think about breath the most are the moments where I can't breathe.
Yeah.
So I'm climbing that hill. I remember a breakthrough for me in bicycling. I was going, I was at the top of a big hill. So a big hill, thing was like, all right, stop breathing through your mouth, Cameron, because you're taking too much air in, you're making your heart work too much, breathe through your nose, and you're able to get up that hill. Then I started running, and I was like, all right, I'm trying to just breathe through my nose because I got that experience with the biking. So I'm like, all right, just breathe through your nose. And I was like, this is not working. I have to breathe through my mouth because of the work that I'm doing. It's too much. I need that air, but I still haven't found that perfect way to breathe while running. Even after watching some videos and stuff, I haven't worked enough on it. But if you want to be a better runner, if you want to be a better thing, and then you can bring that over to the office. So I've definitely had those moments of stress and anxiety. And what do you have to do? You have to get up, walk around the chair, breathe, right? And then that relaxes your body. So I can sort of bring, the everyday importance of just relaxing yourself to your actual output and productivity. So you don't have to be experiencing trauma and pain to be worried about your breath. You should be worried about your breath for your everyday, dealing with your kids, your spouse, dealing with the work that you have in front of you for the day ahead.
That's exactly right. The pain, once you've reached the point of pain, it's basically, you know, the smoke alarm's going off. Okay. You have to address the issue now. But if we were sort of aware and conscious the whole time, pain would be less evident. In fact, just simply breathing better, increasing oxygen content, begins to alkalize the body in and of itself, right? You actually limit inflammation if you're breathing better. And inflammation is what's causing the pain. It's causing the arthritis. All of that stuff is inflammatory. Breathing is going to change that dramatically. Diet has a huge impact on it too. But because we're not breathing, we're not thinking about the breath so often, we're losing all of this oxygen. We're losing essentially electricity, right? The body is operating on electricity. And an acidic body, we hear this often, you're either acid or you're alkaline. Acidity just means low voltage, and alkaline means high voltage. So if you have an alkaline body, you have a lot of electricity. That means your body is just zapping all the shit that comes in, right? Bacteria, viruses, diseases, inflammation. So you have less pain. It's harder to make you feel pain if you're electrified, right? But if you're in a defensive state, your body's acidic, it's alert, right? It's like, what's going to happen? So the pain sensors are heightened. They travel in trinomers. They're 3 at a time. And so anytime, any kind of pain, right? Even muscular pain, you're at the gym, you're working out, your muscles can only tolerate so much. So you quit sooner, right? Because you feel the pain. But if you have a breath exercise, if you train your breathing first, right? And you get the body prepared to exercise, then
so
that's
moving you from when you're breathing the right way, it's moving you from the acidic to the alkaline kind of state.
Yeah, breathe. So in general, higher oxygen content is going to bring the body into a better pH, right? You can see when you that kind of gassing of yourself is also releasing a ton of heat, right? But when you can breathe calmly and normally, your body is in a less alert defensive state, right? It's more relaxed, it's more electrified, so it can tolerate more pain, it can tolerate more cold, more heat, which allows you need that, right? The body needs stress to grow, right? Without the stress, the body does nothing. But the mind needs to allow the body to tolerate the stress. So the mind is what talks you out of, oh, I can't do this anymore. And you quit, you give up, right? So there is this, for me, and this is kind of how I've worked everything, is that I start with my body now. I couldn't do anything when I didn't have my body. I was on my couch. I was miserable. I was depressed. I had all kinds of thoughts. I had all kinds of conversations with myself. And the reason I was that miserable was because I no longer had my vehicle. I could no longer go wherever I wanted to go, or move however I wanted to move. And people don't realize that their body has way more movement in it right now, and it's locked up, right? And of course, there's less joy or less compassion or less energy in general because your vehicle doesn't move as freely as it was. I look at my kid, and I look at kids in general. They're so free with their body. They can squat so low. They can move around so easily. They're so pliable, and they're also much happier. It's hard to really frustrate a kid, right? It's hard to piss them off for an extended period of time. If they're pissed off, it's for a second, and they're right back to being happy again. It's because they have this freedom in their body.
Well, ignorance is bliss too, right? So I think there's a few things that weigh into that. As a father of 4 underneath my roof here,
yeah.
I will say I can definitely vouch for the mental state versus the physical state and everything in between being a lot easier for somebody that's 3 or 9.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's really, because when I was listening to you and when you presented down in the city for Aaliyah, one of the things I was taken away, and I've seen this before, like you stretch and you're able to stretch that much further after you've stretched, so that loosening up of your body. But I think that works also for your mental capacity as well. That idea of stress grows you. So, putting these mental exercises, whether it's, forcing yourself to think differently about your business, or thinking of yourself to focus or think about your body differently and how it moves. It's a big deal. I've certainly just recently, and it's weird because my 9-year-old has wanted to get into skateboarding. So I got back on the skateboard recently, and it's like, wow, I can actually do this. And now it's like, all right, how can I push my body more? But then, like I told you, I was like, oh, I got to think about yoga or something, because I got to get my body to stretch like it did when it was a kid, because it's not, right. It's definitely constrained more now. It's not as loose. And that feeling when you're able to get loose definitely helps me when I'm sitting at the desk, because I feel so much more free and, like you say, happy, and I can enjoy the moment more because I'm not thinking about the stress and the pain. So talk to us about what you've been doing, because I know you had folks at that presentation that were talking about, obviously you've helped yourself get through the pain, but also you've been able to help other people. So I want to hear about some of those stories.
Yeah. So my intention to getting yoga training wasn't to become a teacher. I was, already in LA Photo Party when I went to Mexico to get certified. But really what I wanted to do is I wanted to learn way more about this, this science, so that I can continue to improve my own recovery. And when I came back, it was about 3 weeks in a desert, essentially, and living in a tent, no Wi-Fi, no electricity, no TVs, no computers, no phones, nothing, right? You're just there learning about, your diet and nutrition and breathing and yoga. And when I came back, I just didn't go back to any of my doctors. I just stopped all of that. And I was so eager to continue learning and continue practicing that I felt like I just wanted to share it. And LA Photo Party provided me such a joy, right? I had fun working there, and I still have fun working there. And it provides me financial freedom, right? And within that freedom, I now have a little bit more time to do some things that I want to do, that I'm really passionate about doing, that the finances that come with it are secondary. And I started teaching classes, and then I started taking on some personal clients who usually come to me as a result of an injury too. But some just, want to improve their general health and wellness, and they want more of a one-on-one, as opposed to a public class. So most of my work currently is in a group session in classes, or individualized with a one-on-one. I'm currently working on like a website and putting together something more professional and formal, and only because there is such an increased demand for it. I never advertise. My Instagram is the same for LA Photo Party. You see my kid. You see me doing everything. I don't delineate. I don't separate. I am who I am. All of those things come together. But people have reached out to me for years on this topic, and injury and wellness, and it's improved my career in the event industry. And so I finally started to just get serious about making it official and spending more time and energy helping people, because I know that there is, I hate to say this, but it almost sounds selfish. I know that by helping someone, I'm inevitably helping myself and the community around me. And the event world was great, because if you've hired me for an event, regardless of what's happening in your personal life, if I show up really happy, really energetic, right? And I come in with that energy, I am affecting the room. I am affecting the bride who's nervous. I am affecting the event planner who's stressed out. Just me being who I am in that state, I can effectively work better. I can make the people around me work better. And it's fun. It's no longer work. And I got greedy. I got really greedy, and I wanted to continue to share. And so that's what I do. You know, when I have the time, I'm working on the side business, and I'm putting together a formal format to help others.
Well, let me kind of riff off that for a moment, because you got so much biz dev aspects to what you're talking about. One, just on a very much one-on-one level with any vendor that I'm working with, and I think this is generally true for people in the industry. You'd much rather work with somebody that's happy, joyful. You know, you're going to have a better experience. They're going to do a better job for your clients and partners and stakeholders. So that's something that I think anything that adds that piece of it to it is just a smart business kind of piece.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing this in large companies and small companies, adding in the wellness factor, having yoga classes, whether you're talking about, you know, the Facebook or Google offices in the big corporate environments. I know for my company that I've worked with in the past, and the company that my wife has worked with for the past few years with Compass Group, they've had added on to their health insurance offerings. They have a health coach. So there's all of these steps towards this direction of like, we got to take care of the whole person, not just, you know, corporate management. How are you spending your time at your desk? And, you know, let's teach you how to, you know, make a better widget, right? It's how can we take care of this person, because they're going to be more productive, and they're going to make more widgets, and they're going to think of a better way to make the widget, and they're going to think of new, you know, pieces that are going to add on to our business if they're a happier, more energetic, and excited individual and human being. And I think that's something that we all have to be cognizant of and really thinking about as we pull in vendors and partners for our businesses. I now, you know, looking for a bookkeeper, and a big part of my search is looking for that right personality, culture, or is this person somebody that I want to talk to? Because finances for me is a stress point. I don't like doing the paperwork and the forms. So is this person going to be somebody that's going to make my life happier when I'm talking about this stuff? Or are they going to drag me down? Because I'm already down when I start that conversation. So is this somebody that you know has yoga in their life, or something that's, you know, making them excited about getting up in the morning and talking to me? I think that's such a big part of business. David Fletcher says in the comments here, have you noticed a greater interest and embrace of yoga and spirituality, you know, in these COVID times? I got to imagine the answer to that question is yes, but I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, I think that this entire pandemic is just, I know for most everybody, has just kind of forced you to prioritize and skim and trim the fat anywhere you can, and it's allowed us to have more time with ourselves. And for me, it's been great because I'm a single dad. I'm working 2 jobs. Virtual school started, you know, back in March, and then it's continuing to go on. So I spent a lot more time in the house when I used to be, you know, doing a lot of running around. But I have an area in my house where there's a yoga mat always rolled out. And so it's always a reminder. I see it all the time, and it's hard to walk by it without doing something on it. And so I keep a room. It's within my house is very open, my first floor. So it's like everything kind of flows into this room. And it's where I spend a lot of time just working out, doing some kind of movement.
And I want you to keep going on this, but I just wanted to point out that this is something for anybody that's read Atomic Habits and really wants to make healthy living and healthy eating a part of their lifestyle. This idea of making whatever activity that you want to increase the habit of visual. You have to walk past it, over it. You want to eat more fruit, put the fruit out in a nice fruit bowl by your desk, on the table that you always walk by. This is the way to incorporate this stuff more into your life. So I love that as a as a, and because you're a practitioner, you're teaching it, but even for you, like making it out and visible so that you're practicing what you're walking the talk.
Yeah, 100%. And you're right with food. I do the same thing. It's gotten better as the pandemic progressed. I had more time to cook. I had more time to plan meals. And that is huge. What you put in your vehicle, right? What you put in your mouth, but also what you allow to seep into your eyes, right? So one of the things that I've been doing is just the TV doesn't really turn on for us anymore. As soon as this all kind of started, I know you have to be, well informed, and I get my info from other sources. But I realized that turning on the TV was not only taking a huge amount of my time, it was limiting my movement because I'm sitting down watching it, and it was also starting to stress me out. So I just cut that out completely. And I found so much more time to do something else that I want to do, and get to the mat or ride the bike. My kid, learned how to ride a two-wheeler last summer, so we've been cruising around.
How old is he?
He's 7.
Okay, all right, good age. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you guys have been doing some nice bonding pieces during this and getting outside. That's nice.
Oh yeah, big time. That's really one of my biggest silver linings, is that we get to spend so much time together and doing other things. Not to say it's not challenging, right? Because I didn't sign up to be his first and second grade teacher, but you end up having to take onus, when virtual school's happening. But we've been sort of jumping over these hurdles pretty good, and I would definitely say that yoga has certainly helped with patience, and he benefits from it too, because he's all about it now. He gets off that computer for a break and jumps onto the yoga mat, and or we have this sort of pull-up bar swing in the living room that he jumps on. But really, motion is really, you can't drive it home.
All right, we're gonna have to talk about the pull-up bar swing, because we might need one of those on the house. That sounds awesome. I think this is really important though for folks that whether you're working for corporate, or you're just trying to you're a solopreneur or entrepreneur, working from home right now, managing the children, the relationships in the house, getting the physical movement. I was struggling very much in March with trying to figure out a new schedule. I was used to my days the way they were. I'd be all over the place. I had my VP of operations in the office with me. They were doing their part. I would do my part, but schedule totally shifted and changed as we. Oh, there he is. What's up, buddy?
Yeah. Well, show me as soon as we're done.
What's his name?
He's Zach.
Hey, Zach.
He's actually showing me a video that he just recorded of himself doing dips. He's showing me how many dips he got. All right, can you show me in a few minutes, bud?
So that's a good way to keep the kids busy, get them into the physical exercise.
Do me a favor and close the door. We'll see you in a few minutes. You can show me. I'll record that.
I'm only going to keep it just a few minutes longer. I promise.
A few more minutes, bud. Yes. Nice. You got it. All right. We'll see. Close the door. I'll be back in a minute.
That's a nice camera too. You would have a nice camera with the photo stuff. All right. So, this idea of like how to keep yourself patient, because I think that's really critical for parents. One of the big things in March was getting that schedule down, and I got myself exercising in the morning before I dealt with kids, and then I would have time with the family so that we were getting that in, because even though you were at home, I felt like I was like struggling and trying to put more time into the business, even though there wasn't as much business to try to figure things out. So you're just at the desk and grinding away amidst the horrible news on the television and horrible news in terms of looking at the financials for your business that was 100% based on live events. So getting that physical exercise in the morning, it changed the way I felt about my day. It changed my energy. It changed my flow. And it was really a big deal. So I can really see the value for folks wanting to change how they're feeling about their day, getting a yoga routine into their day, especially like that first thing of getting up in the morning and using that precious time as you open your eyes to focus what you're going to do and what your body's going to be doing for the rest of the day.
It's super, super, super important, man. We really take for granted this human body, the most advanced technology on this planet. We're walking around in it, and we're limiting what we can do with it because we're not doing anything with it. The body requires a ton of movement. I read somewhere 19 miles a day is what the body requires to keep its mobility, to keep its function, and to keep energy coursing through the body. And what happens is as the body gets less and less movement, the mind has more and more movement. So that energy has to go somewhere, right? And if the
How many miles a day?
19.
19 miles
19.
a day.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So if the body is not creating and using this energy, the energy travels up to the brain, right? And then the brain starts creating stories in the past or going into the future, creating worries or all these things. But once you sort of allow that energy to dissipate and bring it into the body, create some of that mobility, yeah, of course your day is going to be better because you've freed up some bandwidth. I love comparing the body to vehicles or devices because there's like this, oh, wow, yeah, that makes sense, right? If you bought an iPhone today and kept every conversation, every picture you ever took, stored every app, just kept piling up all the data, your phone is going to operate less and less efficiently, right? You're going to use up all of its memory. Well, the brain's the same thing, right? If you're watching a lot of shows and you're feeding in all this data, you begin to operate less and less efficiently because you're carrying around so much data.
Yeah. What are you focused on, right? What are you focusing on? And I think one of those things, the idea of multitasking, just as, let's bust that down.
Yep.
Like you can't do more than one thing. So if you're putting like 3 or 4 different sources of information constantly into your brain, trying to get through that one task is so much harder. And I'm constantly battling because I love watching shows and, I'm all over the place. I'm interested in so many things and trying to get that place of Zen where you can just focus in and really just, all right, this is what I need to be doing right now. And I'm focused on this. And now I'm going to just have quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We've gotten really okay with stressing the body, right? If you told someone like 100 years ago to walk into a building and pick up weights and put them down, and you're going to pay me to do this, by the way, you're just going to walk around picking up weights and putting them down, it would be crazy. But now, gyms are $1 billion corporation. People are dying to get back into the gym because they realize how valuable the stress is to their body. Well, the truth is the stress is great for your mind too, right? It does the same thing. It evolves the body. It evolves the spirit and emotional, will. But we need to put it down. We walk out of the gym, but we never walk out of this mental stress. We're just constantly having that conversation with ourselves. And when you can match those two, when you can learn a little bit from the body and say, yeah, stress is okay for me. It's good, right? It's gonna build my body. And then you take that same action with the mind and say, okay, I got a problem here, but it's okay. I'm going to fix this problem. I'm going to get through this problem. And then the next problem is going to be a little easier. We don't do that.
I love that. Like set the weight down, get some silence, let it go.
Yeah. You're going to pick it back up. Trust me, you'll be there.
Absolutely. You're definitely going to pick it back up. All right, then. Thank you so much for doing this. I don't want to keep you away from Zach and your day any longer. Talk to us about how people can get in touch with you, the best way to do that. I did drop down below on YouTube your LinkedIn, and if you're looking on Facebook, it's off to the side. It should be, so you can go over there and check it out and get in touch with Fernando. So tell us the best way to get in touch with you, Fernando, and who are people that you're looking to connect with right now?
Oh man, everybody. I love people. I mean, if we're talking LA photo party services, just anybody in the event industry, I love partnering with everybody. I like turning competitors into partners and, clients into family. That's my thing. So I love learning from people, connecting with anybody in general. But if you are in a space where you don't feel good physically, mentally, emotionally, you need help in that general area, then I'd love to talk to you. You can email me at eotoalways@gmail.com. I'm FernRabbit22 on Instagram. I do have a YouTube page. It's called Reshaped. There's, a little bit of content in there. I'll be adding some more stuff. But I think that's it. Yeah. All that other stuff, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those are good too. They all go to the same place, my phone.
That's awesome. All right, I'm going to let you say goodbye to everybody, and then I'll play us off with the BizDev theme, and I'll let you get on with your day.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. All right, here we go. And bop your head again.
Let's do it.
BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T.